So my name is Camille Gamboa, and I am AVP of Corporate Communications at Sage Publishing, and really just honored to be moderating this session today. It is going to be a highly interactive session, so if you want to pull out your phone and scan this QR code, or go online in any way you can on to Mentimeter or menti.com and put in 59415520. We have a question on the screen already. You should be able to see it. I'll pull it up here in a second. And which is in one word, so this is going to use some creativity. In one word, what do academic libraries need to thrive in the future? Okay? You can actually put in 3 one-word answers, you'll see. So you have a little bit of flexibility there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up our Menti and see what you all are saying. Okay, so we have 24 responses so far. Flexibility is the big one. Money's the big one. Staff, relationships. I'm going to let it calm for a second. Looks like we've got responses coming in. Oh, up to 42 now. Okay. All right, so looks like our biggest one-word answers, our most popular one-word answers are flexibility, money, staff, relationships, collaboration, and then we've got lots of other cool things coming in. Great. I'll have to share these later, what the final results were, but this is really interesting. So just a little bit of an intro and explain a little bit why I, someone at Sage, am hosting this talk. So Sage is an independent company. In fact, our independence has been guaranteed by our founder. We will never be bought. We will never have to answer to shareholders, et cetera. And eventually, a number of higher education institutions will be the financial beneficiaries of our company. So it's kind of a cool thing. And one of the great things about being independent and not beholden to shareholders is that we don't have to obsess over next quarter's earnings. We can really think about the long term, and we work towards higher goals and in supporting higher ed for the long term, which is really rewarding and really nice. And so when we talk about the long-term future of higher education, we talk about the library as kind of the center of it, the center of teaching and learning, even more so than the library is now. We talk about what we can do to make sure that the library and the librarians thrive in the future. So we've done a few things recently, after we've been in support of this kind of thinking. We invested in a talent management platform for libraries called Skill Type to help invest in their futures and skill building. We set up 5 scholarships with the National Association of Librarians of Color to invest in the future of librarianship and making sure that we have diverse representation in librarianship. But we want to do more, and so we thought, okay, let's ask librarians themselves what they think they need to thrive in the future. And so just last little recap, we got outreach has grown, relationships, change, and users. Okay, so that's some really interesting stuff here. Okay, now going over to my slides. So that's us. Okay, so we asked this incredible group of librarian thought leaders what they thought, and actually we put it together in a blog. You can go to that. It's group.sagepub.com/librarians -insights. It's kind of hidden there. Anyway, so we asked them to respond to this question: how do we ensure a healthy future for academic libraries? And we got some really great responses. We really some cool themes. So there was a lot about redefining the role of the library, recognizing and investing in new skills, connecting with broader institutional goals, funding, coalition building, AI, and more. So our speakers today actually were amongst some of those respondents. And this is a conversation that we're going to continue today. So we're excited to bring you all into this conversation. So here's how it's going to work. Each presenter is going to respond to this question: what's the one idea that will ensure academic libraries thrive? They each get 5 minutes to present. In between each of their presentations, we're going to gauge how you feel about what they've said through a poll. And then we will have a good time of discussion amongst the panelists, and we may even ask you all questions. So please be ready and willing to go up to the microphones and bring in your own comments. And then at the end, we'll get questions from you all, okay? And as you all know, these sessions are recorded. So if we come up with some really cool, actionable things, and I hope we do, I'll compile some of those things from the recording, put them together, and start putting it into action. So that's how we'll go, and we're going to kick off with Courtney. But before she goes, I'm going to give her a little introduction. So Courtney Young is a university librarian at Colgate University, as well as co-coordinator for one of the academic commons. Before coming to Colgate, she held library positions at Penn State University, Michigan State University, and the Ohio State University. She has served in a variety of leadership roles at ALA, including being elected the 2014 to 2015 ALA president. That was long ago. I can't believe it was that long ago. Wow, almost 10 years. Yeah. And with that, I'll pass it over to Courtney. Whatever you're more comfortable with. If you want to sit, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. Yeah, no, that's great. Okay. Is that okay? I think people will be on that side will be able to see better. Anyway, so.
We're already being nimble here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's that after lunch slump. Good afternoon. Yes. This, of course, is a very easy question to answer. No. But it did allow me to have an opportunity to do a lot of thinking in terms of like, what's something that our libraries really need to thrive. My mind immediately went to the concept of collaboration, but I felt like that was probably not really what I wanted to kind of push myself on and dive in a bit on. So I came up with this concept of proactive adaptability, because we know that things are constantly changing on our campuses. COVID-19 in some ways pushed a lot of places in ways in which they never ever wanted to be pushed. But they demonstrated that when we really want to, we can change, we can pivot, we can be nimble. But it's not our normal orientation within libraries to do that. And so when I talk about this idea of proactive adaptability, this really means that we need to kind of get out of our comfort zone. We need to get beyond what it is that we're accustomed to doing. We are great at the things that we do. We're great at building collections. We're great at working on our spaces. We're great on providing services that our faculty, staff, and students need. But we also sometimes can suffer from this idea around where we are in the institution and whether or not the institution values what we do, whether or not we are incorporated into the strategic plans. Are we isolated to one little part, or is there opportunity to do more? And so I think that there's really an opportunity for us to really kind of push on this a bit more and be proactive in that. We're often in a position where libraries are reacting to things. We're always reacting to things. But if we could have an opportunity to really take a stronger position to be proactive in our engagement across the campus and the way that the library supports and contributes in multiple ways, not just we have the collections, we do the instruction. I think that that's going to help us to really thrive and be seen by our institutions in a stronger way and in a more essential sort of way. One of the questions is sort of who is supposed to do the prioritization around this. And certainly the administration does have a role in doing this. But I also think that for me, something that's been very important in my career is the notion of being able to lead from wherever you are. And so I really think that a lot of this engagement can come from everyone within the libraries. Now, certainly some people feel more agency around being able to do that than others, but I also think that it's probably time for us to think a little bit more about, how we want to do this work, and instead, again, not being sort of reactive for me to say, Camille, please do this. Camille probably has ideas about things that she would want to do. And so wouldn't it be a great idea for Camille to say, you know what, I think I can contribute to the university's goals around this through this component of my work. And so I don't think that we do that enough. We wait for things to kind of come down to us. Sometimes we're really frustrated by that, but.
Click admit so that everybody can hear you online.
No. I've had nothing to say so far. No, but I think that that's a piece that we just are not taking those risks and taking that step and really sort of saying, you know what, I think I have a way of supporting this that doesn't feel like it's too much or it's something else. Things that naturally fit into what we do. When I work on developing strategic plans with people, I try to make sure that everyone needs to be able to see themselves within the plan, because it's not a plan that's just for this small group of people or that small group of people. It can't be successful if everyone isn't some way involved and engaged, and that can't be that small group of people because they don't know the work or the people or the resources in the way that they need to in order to demonstrate that success and that importance to the institution. Obviously, resources that are needed are, I will go ahead and admit, resources that are needed, of course, time, money, buy-in. You really need people to say, you know what, I see this as a part of the work that I'm supposed to do as a member of the libraries, and I'm willing and committed to do that work because it is going to be important and support the mission of the institution and the mission of the libraries and all of those students that we're always excited in May to see walk across the stage. Where am I on time?
You're on time.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. So let's see if we can get this tech working. We're going to go to the next. Okay. Proactive adaptability. Thank you, Courtney. Go ahead, go back to the Menti poll, and let's get your reactions. I see a real need for this change in order for libraries to thrive, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. All right. Let's see what you all have to say. Okay, we're at 4.8 out of 5. Oh, sorry. The code is, it's not showing. It's 59415520. Sorry. You can't see it because of the, oh, I think I can exit out of this thing. There we go. It's at the top now. 59415520. We got some thumbs up. Okay. All right, we're kind of steady here at 4.4. So looks like we got, this is not a competition, by the way, but if you are competitive, that might make you a little,
whoever gets
yeah.
the highest score gets an iPod.
Yeah. Remember iPods? All right, let's move along. So this was our poll. Okay. Do we have our online speaker? Jamia, are you there? We can go out of order, certainly.
You can hear me?
Oh. Yeah, it wouldn't. I think I heard a faint sound.
Yeah?
Oh, we got her. Woohoo.
Yay, okay.
Before you go,
All
let me
right.
get
I
me
wish
do
y'all
a-
could hear how it sounds on my end. It sounds really bad, but I'm glad y'all can
no.
hear me.
Okay. Do you hear me now?
Okay, yay. All right, so I'm
Just
gonna
let her
go with it. I don't know what Courtney said, so I'm sorry, Courtney, if I repeat what you said. I don't know what you said. So what's the one idea that will ensure academic libraries thrive? That was a tough question because there's so many ideas. So I have the one, which I feel is providing flexible work arrangements is the one idea that ensures academic libraries thrive. Audre Lorde said there's no thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live single issue lives. So why should this be prioritized? The COVID-19 global pandemic has forever changed us, and to act like nothing happened is disingenuous and genuinely a missed opportunity. Many people realized they were not prioritizing themselves and didn't want to return to business as usual. I'm one of those people. This should be prioritized because people lost folks who were close to them, so they had to become a caregiver or more generally grieve. Grieving is a process that many people have to deal with for a lifetime. And as the saying goes, the feelings of grief comes in waves. As a parent, I already have to deal with school schedules that don't match my work schedule. So juggling that with the academic rigor expected of many academic librarians is tough. At the 2019 ACRL conference, I attended a panel discussion, and I'm just paraphrasing with what one of the panelists stated, that we are a female-dominated profession, but we are not a feminist profession. That statement resonated with me on so many levels. So whose job is to take action? I think it's everyone's job to take action by reimagining a workplace where care is a priority. Some institutions are doing it, so gleaning from them to ensure that library workers are also prioritized is key. When we fly, they tell us to put on our mask before helping someone. So since we are a service-driven profession, we must prioritize this to cut down on burnout, low morale, toxic workplaces, etc. What resources are needed? The work that Katrina Davis Kendrick is doing around the low morale experience is important. She has renewals, which allows her to be a researcher, facilitator, coach, and public speaker to focus on the well-being of library workers, which is something to be noticed. There's Mindful and LIS, which is a great platform that helps with mindful practices in our profession. Amanda M. Leftwich founded it. There's Babazi Attar's work about vocational awe, and that's essential for us to grapple with as a profession. And also, I would like for everyone to check out the work of Zan Goodman and Tawana Hodge around cultural humility and competency. And for librarians who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, connecting with organizations like the National Association of Librarians of Color and We here is crucial because sometimes we are the only one or one of two in our workplaces. And lastly, I would like to shout out my podcast, Live Voices. I co-founded it, and on there we have many of our guests share their successes, and they give us their wisdom on how this profession can be better for all people, not just a few of us, for everyone. So that's my time. I hope I didn't say anything that Courtney said. So thank y'all.
Thank you. They were different but complementary, I think. Okay, so let's go back to our poll. Let's gauge how we feel about this one. When it comes to providing flexible work arrangements, I see a real need for this change in order for libraries to thrive. I'm wondering if we have anyone in the room who actually has control over that, who can pull levers for when it comes to flexible work arrangements. You don't have to out yourselves, but if you are, hopefully this was helpful to get some feedback there. All right. We have some people who feel that way and some people who probably just don't feel as strongly, but this is really helpful. We're up to 4 now, okay? All right, looks like we're at a stop. We're at a good place to move on there. So we'll
give a quick did you want to give Jamia's intro?
Oh yeah, so I didn't give Jamia's intro, so I'll just do that real quick. So she is the Consumer Health Program Specialist with the network of the National Library of Medicine Training Office. And as she said, the co-creator and co-host of podcast Live Voices, which I listen to. You all should run, don't walk to your podcast apps and start subscribe now. It amplifies the voices of Black, Indigenous, and people of color who work in archives and libraries. And she also founded the Diversity Fellows blog, which is a platform to document her journey as a Black librarian. Okay, so we took that poll already, and now we'll move on to John. Now I'm going to do your intro now, John. So John Burgess is an assistant professor and undergraduate studies coordinator at the University of Alabama's School of Library and Information Studies, where he teaches courses on information ethics, information policy, sustainability, and information literacy, and more. He co-edited and contributed chapters to the book Foundations of Information Ethics. You may have seen it. It's an ALA publication, and he has published numerous articles and chapters on LAS professional ethics. Right, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Great. First, I want to thank Camille and Sage for making this possible, and I want to thank my co-panelists for really probably saying everything that already needed to be said, and thank you all for showing up this afternoon. I appreciate your time. So the one idea that I would like to share is sustainability. And so a lot of times when people think about the idea of sustainability, you might think of like preserving the California golden condor or blowing up an oil pipeline, right? And so while activism and conservation are important parts of sustainability, ultimately, at the end of the day, all the concept of sustainability is the capability of persisting over time, right? To sustain oneself is to be resilient in the face of shocks and hardships, but also it includes the ability to flourish or grow, right? So when we think sustainability, I want you to think doing the things that need to be done in order to persist into the future. And this operates at the level, I think it works very well with things that have already been said. Sustainability for yourself, not burning out, being able to achieve your own professional goals. It also includes sustainability for your library to ensure its continuance, and on up to and including your host institution and the people and communities that it serves. So, like, without mentioning any specific names, my undergraduate alma mater, which is a liberal arts college in central Alabama that's been around since basically the mid-19th century, absent miraculous intervention, is going to close at the end of the spring. And it is a combination of internal factors and external factors that are leading to that happening, right? You know, the external factors are the ones that have impacted all of us. The Great Recession, COVID, changes in preference in education delivery mode. But there are also internal factors, the decision to devote significant portion of the college's endowment to building and capital campaigns, essentially removing the capability of being resistant to those external shocks, right? So sustainability is the ability to persist. Sustainable thinking is intentionally making decisions that will promote persistence over time. So ultimately, what does this involve? This involves treating the future like it's real. And as you make, right, I mean, right? And so, like, making decisions that, as Camille mentioned when talking about the mission of SAGE, takes into account the long now, and resists the urge for immediate metrics over long-term goals, right? And so, thinking about whose job it is to take action in this space, you know, again, like was mentioned before, the sort of David Attenborough, Carl Sagan approach to this is to say, like, everybody who wants to persist into the future should take part in helping make these decisions and to focus long-term instead of short-term. But realistically, so it's really hard for us, like, as people, to ignore the immediate fire for the sake of, like, the long-term warming, right? If people were good, if I were good at making, like, long-term decisions in the present, I would eat a lot more salads, right? I would eat a lot more salads than I do. So what we have to do is take steps to make it easier for people to make the right decision incrementally and over time. And in an institutional setting, where that happens is at the level of policy. Policy, especially policy that is tied to specific and measurable goods, that are tied to values that you and your organization and your institution espouse, make it easier to hold yourself, your department, your library accountable So what is the one thing that you can do? If your job is a policy touching job, if you have influence over the upkeep or creation of policies, investigate the processes surrounding creating sustainability policies for your library. If you don't know how to make a sustainability policy, if you're just getting your toes wet on this topic, wonderful. Welcome. The person whose work is most mature in this space and is most accessible is a person named Rebecca Smith Aldrich. And Rebecca has 2 marvelous books that I encourage you to read. One is Sustainability Thinking, one is Resilience. They're different but complementary, and both are available through ALA, and I strongly encourage it. So in terms of like what resources are needed, I draw parallels with essentially the changes that have happened around open access and open educational resources, right? It's not a perfect parallel, but it is related. And so essentially it began with the recognition that something unethical was happening. We were not reaching our values in a significant way, and we collaborated together to change a philosophy of practice. And so the same thing with sustainability, pivoting from the main goal as being immediate measures to considering immediate measures and the long-term mission, vision, and goals of our institution, is that sort of philosophical shift. So all that you need is vision, commitment, and energy. And then I'll close with the idea that we started out by talking about sustainability, the ability to persist over time. We talked about resilience, the ability to absorb shocks. And then I'd like to close emphasizing flourishing. So flourishing is the ability to thrive, and to thrive by doing the thing that you are meant to do. Not something extra, not something special, not something on top, but by fulfilling your purpose as a professional and as an institution. And the last idea is that no one thrives alone, right? No one has ever truly bootstrapped themselves. No one sets and can ensure their own destiny. We all have to do it together. So all flourishing is mutual. As we begin to flourish, we're able to help each other, and then together we can achieve sustainability in our time. So thank you.
All right, some really interesting insights. So we're going to go back to our poll and get your thoughts on this. So going back to sustainability. I see a real need for this change in order for libraries to thrive. How do you feel about this concept? Okay, looks like we've got a few responses. At about 4.2 here. All right, this is super interesting and super helpful. There was also a poll, I don't know, some of you might have seen it on the Whova app, that anybody could have taken at any point during, since downloading the app, I suppose, where I asked, how often do you think about the long-term future of the librarian? And, you know, I thought of this question because, so in our research and in our thoughts at Sage about this concept, a colleague of mine went and did some interviews, some virtual and some in the area. I'm in the DC area, so it's with some librarians in the area. And we would ask them about, you know, where do you see the future of your profession? Where do you want it to go? And the look every single time was something like, oh, like, I don't really think about that much. And I think just having that, it's because of a lack of headspace, right? Because there's so many fires to put out and so many hats that everyone wears that it just was like, oh yeah, maybe I should start thinking about that. And so it was interesting to see, I don't know if you all can see the results of this poll in the Whova app, but if not, I'll just share them. So how often do you think about the long-term future of the librarian? The highest answer was, so it goes from never, sometimes, occasionally, and it's always on my mind. The highest answer was occasionally, 42 responses there. Next was it's always on my mind. So 38 of the respondents said always on my mind. 33 said sometimes, and 9 said never. So I just think it's interesting to think about how we don't think about this very much. I'm going to go to our next poll. Same code, menti.com, 59415520. What would it mean to you if all of these ideas were achieved? And I just put them in there: proactive adaptability, flexible work, and sustainability. Feel free to put in your thoughts, what it would mean to you. This is a short answer one, so I'll try to read some of them as they come in. Everything. All right, I like it. Job security, flourishing. That's great. Utopian. Some optimists here. Relief. I like that. Peace of mind, relief. This is a similar theme. The library becomes even more important on campus. Calm, doing well, dynamic, meet the needs and the needs of others. Meet our needs and the needs of others. A future, feeling more engaged. Harmonize competing interests. Yeah, I see that. Much less stress. Greater value, peace. Looking up, that's great. Oops, let's see, what did I just do? Go back to all answers. Okay, sense of direction. Great, this is really interesting. It's really helpful to get your feedback here. Okay, we're gonna now go back over to our respondents and have a little discussion. Let's see. Okay, so let's, Jamia, are you on, can you hear us okay if we ask you questions?
And they fixed the problem. It sounds amazing.
All right.
Yay.
So let's start with you then.
Okay.
Where do you see overlap and connections amongst the ideas that you all presented?
Okay, so I didn't hear Courtney.
Oh, that's right.
But I see that it was proactive adaptability. Is that
Yes,
what it is?
yeah,
The gist of
yeah.
it? Okay. So yeah, so I feel like the overlap, if you're adaptable, then you're flexible, then you can be sustained, right? So that's what I feel like it all is coming together for us to be progressive in our ideas and then take the lead on our own like destinies as a profession. So I think that's where I see these ideas overlapping and the connections between all three.
Okay. Thoughts on the table? Is the microphone?
No, just turn it on. It's on.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I love Jamia's ethics of care approach that was at the base of it, and the idea that we have to take into account our responsibilities for one another. And so I think when we focus on mutual flourishing, it only works if you can develop professional ethics to ensure that those values are enshrined in an officially recognized way, or else it's just going to be people doing additional emotional labor, and often that falls to women in an organization, creating just one more differential burden. So I think points of connection between us. Ethics of care is incredibly important. It's essential before true mutual flourishing can take place, and you have to make sure that you enshrine it in official policy, or else it's just going to be elective and one more thing to grind people down.
I really like the fact that with all of these, that we're in the driver's seat on them. You know, it isn't a matter of waiting for something else or someone else to say, you should do this, you should be involved in this. All of these things say, you know, that, you know, you have agency over these things, that we have a level of control that I think I don't often have in my work and my day-to-day role as a librarian. And so the notion that I could take a step back and go, you know what, I actually could have control over these things. What if I did ask these questions? The answer might not be what I immediately assume that it's going to be. And so I really like the fact that it positions us in a very different way where we can, you know, have some influence over it.
And now, did you see any conflicts amongst your ideas?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You said no.
Did you? Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think that I think that there's some things that could be perceived as being in conflict. And
Okay.
so I think in terms of the ethics of care, probably could be seen as conflict. With what I had to say about proactive adaptability, where I said everyone should be involved in this, everyone should have some role to play, but the presumption is that work and that role needs to be one thing, and I think maybe that's where we could again take a step back and say, this can look a lot of different ways and still end up at the same place. Resources, they're all competing for resources in some way, shape, or form, not just financial resources, but people, time, those types of things, because Unite. So I think there can be some conflicts,
Sure.
but I think that if we're in control, then we can be proactive and think about how we could approach this, have a sense of like, okay, this is going to be a barrier to this, how do we prioritize it, and then move forward.
John, did you have further thoughts on that?
No, just to point out something that I should have said in my original presentation, which was that like the core concept in sustainability is that you have to pivot from a single bottom line to a triple bottom line, which takes into account the traditional bottom line of economic viability, but also ecological good. And ecological here doesn't just mean like nature, it means creating systems that work, right? And it can work perpetually into the future. And the last is social equity. And so removing injustices in systems which differentially benefit individuals within those systems. And so, I agree with what you're saying, that being in a system that is primed for competition is going to be somewhat antithetical to maybe these other two ways. But ultimately, I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I think, you need competition to set resources, priorities, but then you need cooperation to ensure that they're used most effectively over time.
Okay. Jamia, do you have further thoughts on this one?
I love what both of the other panelists said. It just, I know sometimes around the ethics of care, there's some intergenerational conflicts that I noticed. How I'm a millennial and we get blamed for everything, in my opinion, as a millennial. And we get thrown in with Gen Zers, and, every generation has, their own thing that sticks to them. But I think ultimately we want our profession to continue to be viable. And I think ultimately we want our profession to, be noticed and seen. So I think if we have like a good foundation, we can work together, even if we do have those conflicts at times.
Okay.
As long as people are being seen and heard.
All right. I wanted to pause quickly and just say, if you all have thoughts or questions, feel free to start lining up at the microphones. There's one right here. There's one right there. And in particular, if you have, reactions to these ideas, or if you have your own idea that's like, wait, we got to talk about this. This is what we really need to thrive in the future. Don't be shy, because we'd love to discuss those things as well.